Hey, thanks for tuning in. It's been a while since I made some videos, so I thought I would get started today. I have some plans on a lot of different videos, informational videos and educational. As everybody that follows me knows, or if you're new to my videos, I'm a rep for Primal Medical Group, and there's a lot of really great things coming about with Primal. Um, Now, anybody that signs up for Primal, there's some of my services that are going to come with it, nutritionally, consulting on hormone replacement, even exercise, things like that, come along with the packages. Well, something I'm trying to make men very aware of is it's not about how much testosterone you take, it's how to keep the body from counteracting it and shutting things down, and you have plenty of free testosterone to use. We're trying to achieve, which we have, if people follow along, come join us at Primal. We can reap all the rewards above and beyond norm with testosterone and not have any of the side effects that can be associated with testosterone abuse. Okay. I want to break some things down. So today I'm going to get started with the idea of where guys think more is better, right? Which I was talking with Dr. John Jaquish today. Brought a couple things to my mind. There's some interesting things coming out even in the field of testosterone replacement therapy, which we'll get to later on. But the idea more is better, we know, isn't ever really applicable in everything. Okay. Um, Testosterone, SHBG, we talk about the hypothalamus function. I'm going to do a video on just the hypothalamus, but today I want to get started with the idea of taking too much testosterone. People don't understand this, and a lot of the guys that abuse testosterone, all the guys out there just freewheeling it and sticking syringes in themselves, have no idea what's going on in their body. They don't get blood work done unless they're off, because obviously their blood work would look like shit, and they're afraid of the repercussion from their doctor seeing it. Um, so I'll break down what's going on. And this is not just about guys abusing steroids. There's guys on TRT that are suffering from these same things. Okay. TRT is great, but we got to know how to do it correctly. So one of the common protocols, a lot of guys go out there, they take a shot of testosterone once or twice a week in a bolus dose. And not just like almost everybody up till recently has thought that the half-life of these testosterone compounds was multiple days, like up to 11 days with cypionate. And that's not it. That's the clearance half-life. That's where it's not detectable anymore. There's an hourly half-life where that is dispersed. It actually peaks, cypionate peaks it at the 11-hour mark. Now, I'm just using cypionate as an example because that's the number one prescribed testosterone, the ester connected to it that gives it the half-life is cypionate. Okay, testosterone cypionate, its original half-life is 11 hours. Okay, so at 11 hours you get this peak. All right, and let's say that this right here is your limit. This is where your body will start shutting you down. You'll start raising SHBG. Now, most people don't have a fucking clue what SHBG is. SHBG, steroid hormone binding globulin. This binds to testosterone that's up out of range and makes it useless. Okay? So when we elevate SHBG, we're just bringing testosterone levels down. But because the SHBG is elevated, the hypothalamus shuts down. It suffers. The hypothalamus is at the root of our brain. It controls all of our hormone function. It controls the adrenal cortex, our pituitary gland, body temperature, appetite, sex drive, blood pressure, things like that. Well, I wonder why when we take too much testosterone, all these things go out of whack. Mood. Mood is greatly affected. Sensitivity to hormones. Sensitivity to your own brain chemicals. Dopamine. The thyroid function's all tied into this. um, let's see, growth hormone, testosterone, estrogen, thyroid hormone, prolactin, progesterone, dopamine, you name it, it's all tied into this. Okay, so when this starts to shut down and suffer, everything else starts to suffer. Even our adrenal cortex, which is directly tied into the upregulation of the androgen receptors, which makes them more sensitive. Just like people become desensitized to insulin and respond less to it, the same thing can happen from oversaturation of androgens in the body. We become resistant to androgens. Okay, when the receptors start to get exhausted. For people, people don't understand what a receptor is. You think of one of those little block. Remember those circles when we were little kids, and you have the little star thing that goes in the star hole, and the circle goes in the circle hole, and the square goes in the square hole. Imagine those holes are receptors, and the square and the circle and the star are hormones floating around your system, and they only fit in these certain receptors to trigger things. Okay, that's what I'm talking about with receptors. All right. Now, when we take a bolus dose of a steroid, here's the thing. Okay, this would be your upper limit in a day. We can play around, go all over the place with that. But as long as you're not going above this amount that the body would normally, sees as normal in a day, the SHBG stays down, the hypothalamus function stays normal. But we know that we don't ever want to go above 10 to 20 milligrams in a day, or it's too much. And this is affected and things start to get shut down. Okay. Well, if we took 10, 20 milligrams in a day, what do you think happens when somebody takes 200 milligrams in a day? Right? It's not days. People used to think that you take this bolus shot and it just trickles into your system over like 11 days. It doesn't. It spikes in 11 hours. So let's say right here would be a 12-hour mark, 1:24. Okay. So let's see, 1 hour 1, hour 12, 24. Okay. The 12 mark right here, around the 12-hour mark, if you took 200 milligrams, you're going to be 10 to 20 times higher than you should be. You get a spike like that, and it doesn't taper off as fast either. You actually get a spike, and then it goes down over a few days, right? Your body detects that this is way out of range. This SHBG starts to go up. Your estrogen conversion starts to go up. The hypothalamus shuts down. The adrenal cortex starts to suffer. The pituitary gland starts to suffer. And now you're going to bottom out in a few days. The SHBG and estrogen are still going to be elevated. And then you're going to take another bolus dose, and that's going to keep coming up and up and up and up until after about 8 to 10 weeks, it's got you caught. You'll feel really good for like 8 to 10 weeks, and then everything just starts to peter off. Now, if it's somebody on TRT that was really low, they'll still feel better than they did beforehand, but not as good as they did at first. Okay? And this is because the hypothalamus is starting to suffer, and that spike of sex drive that we had and mood and all these things is now subsiding. Okay. And the only time, because the SHBG is so elevated and the estrogen so elevated, the only time you ever really feel good is going to be a couple days of this first dose. And then from there, everything's going to be just crap. Okay. What happens in the past, guys have no fucking clue that the free testosterone is all that matters. I have a protocol. I have guys on, they're doing a certain amount per day, taking some supplements, and their free testosterone One guy I'm thinking of, for example, the range goes up to 155. His free test was 184. But the body's not fighting him because he's not going above this range. So he's got all this free test to use. I know guys that have taken a gram, 1,000 milligrams a week of testosterone, and their free test will be like 75. And their total, after so many weeks, you look at the total, which the outer range is about anything over 1,100. Okay? Their total test will be 1,000, 1,100, but their free test will be in that middle range. And their androgen receptors are downregulated, and some of their other hormone functions are going to the wayside. Okay? After so many weeks, when the body has us caught, this is where guys thought, well, this is as much muscle. I'm going to use this theoretically and use some numbers just for reference. And this is the way most guys think because they don't have a clue what's going on. So let's say they go on 500 milligrams a week of testosterone. Okay? And I don't know any, and then let's say they did it in 2 shots. They do 250 times 2. Let's say Monday and Thursday. That kind of shit's pretty common. Okay? So these guys, they first go on this 500 milligrams. Their free test is going to be so elevated, they can't even use it all. It's impossible. It's like, imagine if you just had to get a car around the block, but you filled the tank with gas first, right? You have this full tank of gas, but you're only going to use a cup of gas, right? Same thing with this. Your testosterone is so elevated, you're just getting bloated inside of, a lot of guys for some reason think that this 5 pounds of bloated water weight is muscle. They throw on 5 pounds in 3 weeks and they think it's muscle. It's not. Okay. It's mostly superficial fluid retention, things like that. But at this, after 8 weeks, they go get blood work done. It's a mess. But their total testosterone will be like 1,000 to 1,200 on 500 milligrams. That shit should be 5,000. I'm not joking. So, and then there's 2 different SHBG scales. Okay. Let's reference the one that goes to 155. Let's say they're at 70. They're on 500 milligrams. These guys went on this 500 milligrams. They felt good. They're working out. They get some gains, and then they're afraid to come off of it. And no matter how many times you explain to them they need to come off, they don't even hear you because they're so ignorantly attached to this 5 pounds of muscle they put on that they're afraid to lose it if they do something different. The thing is, you're losing out because you're not doing something different. Your body has a safety net set up. Your androgen receptors are being downregulated. It's all coming from the hypothalamus the hypothalamus being suppressed. The hypothalamus is suppressed. It shuts your testes down. Your testes are shut down. Your androgen receptors start to downregulate. Everything's going downhill. Now you're just maintaining what you have on this dose, but you're dying at the same time. Blood pressure's going out of whack. You start to get depressed. All these bonuses to taking testosterone are now going away because we're being suppressed down to just normal levels. And then the side aspect, other hormone balances and things are being hurt because of this. The hypothalamus, when it suffers, everything else starts to suffer off of it. Okay. I can take daily dosing and have your levels here and your free test above this On less than a fifth of this, you'll have higher free testosterone because your body's not fighting it. Okay? And then all your other functions will be normal. Your testicles won't even shut down. You'll still be able to produce little bursts of your own fucking testosterone. Your blood pressure, mood, the prolactin levels, everything else all balances out. Okay? And I'm going to go deeper into the hypothalamus, adrenal cortex, pituitary function, things like that. But I wanted to start with this to give everybody a basic idea what I'm talking about here. So what happens is guys are afraid to come off. Some guys eventually, maybe they'll go down to 200 milligrams. When you go down to 200 milligrams, it's going to take a few weeks. You're going to feel a little sluggish because your SHBG and estrogen conversion are still up for a few weeks. And until that comes back down to compensate to the 200 milligrams, you're going to feel in a deficit. Okay? Now, this deficit is, you are in a deficit, but even at that, the 200 milligrams, you're still up out of range. The hypothalamus is still shut down, whatever. Yeah, you're resensitized. You're brought back down to where if you went back up to 500 milligrams, let's say you did 8 weeks like that, you go back up to 500 milligrams, you're going to be double in your test score. You'll get some more benefit for a while, but all the while, you're still suffering on the adrenal cortex. The hypothalamus is still shrinking. Okay, it does shrink if it's shut down long enough. It's in hibernation, just like your nuts. When your nuts shut down, they shrink. You guys know this. So if we do it correctly, we won't shut any of that down. Our levels will still be up here. We'll actually have elevated free testosterone and we'll make better progress. I still say this, and other guys are still just stuck on, oh, I should take a little more. That's not it. You're actually hurting yourself doing that. Then we have ways to manipulate it where you get bumps in testosterone here and there, and it doesn't affect anything, but you're getting extra amounts to use, okay? And that's only important to, let's say, high level, like an athlete or somebody that's heavy into resistance training or something like that. So that's where, depending on who the guy is and his lifestyle, would be a little bit different as far as how we would go about this, dosage-wise, things like that, compounds, you name it. What most guys do is they have no idea that it's just the fact that you're raising the free testosterone, and they think it all has to do with dosage. I got so big on 500 milligrams, so next time, this is where it gets really stupid. Next time I'm going to take 800 milligrams. Well, the thing is, you're going to grow because let's say you go down to like 200 milligrams, which again is too much. You're going to go up to 800 and you're still going to make gains, but the free test is too high for a while. So the gains could have been made on half as much. Okay. So this can be done at a level where we keep this optimal and we have little bumps and everything just stays in range. Okay. Then guys get to the point where they're afraid to come off. Like they get to the point where 500 milligrams is the least they'll take. And it gets to the point where that's all you'll respond to because your androgen receptors are so downregulated from the amount of shit you're taking. They're not as sensitive. And now you're responding to 500 the way you used to 250. Okay. And then from here, guys will start taking 1,000 milligrams. Well, they'll gain again for 8 to 10 weeks. And then their levels will be right back down here and they're maintaining again. But they think this is how big I got on 1,000 milligrams. I have to stay on this to keep this size. You'll actually start to suffer and go down because the free test is dropping. Okay. I've seen it where guys, including myself, have gone up to 3,000 milligrams a week. The gains weren't any better than they were the first time on 500 milligrams a week. But guys have been using this shit for so long, they're so desensitized, they seem to think it's just the fact that to get to a certain size, you have to be on a certain dosage. And that's not true. It's just the fact that you got a little free test to use, you train, and you eat. The training and eating is more important than the testosterone. Okay? I'll go into some more aspects of Humanofort and the training as long as I'm going through all of this. Because all of it goes hand in hand. But what I guess the topic today is how your body regulates taking these higher doses and how everybody is so skewed on what's going on in their body. Okay. So I've seen guys on 3,000, 1,000, 500 milligrams, whatever, and their free test will be in the middle range. And after 8 to 10 weeks, they get blood work done and their levels are 1,000, 1,100, 1,200. When you could have been microdosing and had your levels the same with higher free testosterone, because the body's not counteracting, it's not downregulating receptors, and it's not counteracting with estrogen and SHBG to bind everything up. So we can manipulate things and fool the body to where we get these little spikes and we can use it. We just use it around the times that we're going to, say, work out or things like that. With this, we can have normal body function. We won't have any mess, like our blood pressure's fine, our blood's not thick, our triglycerides aren't thrown off, our cholesterol balance is good. All these different things are in range and we are healthy, but yet we are getting the same benefits guys taking large amounts are getting because we're intelligent and we know how to do it properly. Okay? We've taken the time instead of just using bro science and wondering how many milligrams of trenbolone it takes to put on 10 pounds of muscle. We realize it's just the fact that you have more androgens to use, and the training, just taking these compounds won't cause muscle growth. You have to activate androgen receptors through your training. So we'll get to that when I talk a little more about the training as far as that goes. But for what I just discussed here, I hope that was helpful for everybody. And you can message me on Facebook directly if you have any questions and any info on some videos to talk about. That stuff really is helpful for me for some input to help talk about this stuff with you guys. So, but going forward through here, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal cortex. Don't be taking too much testosterone, shutting yourself down and making it worse in the long run. And this is why I've teamed up with Primal. The doctors at Primal understand these things. We are at the top of all of it. Exercise, nutrition, and even hormone therapy. Okay? So come join us at Primal.